Hi, good evening to the viewers. I am Cristian Popayam. I am apprentice in the Software Analysis and Development Training Program. My course number is 3013187. The name of instructor is Jorge Uribe. This activity is called Job Interview Simulation. This time, I will present a video simulating a job interview, answering the 12 questions included in the activity. Hello, good morning, Mr. Popayán. Let me introduce myself. My name is Rodolfo Vélez, Human Resource Manager at Grupo Aval. The purpose of this meeting is to ask you a series of questions to better understand your professional profile. Hello, good morning, Mr. Vélez. I understand. I'm ready to begin. Question number 1. Tell me about a time you had to solve a complex problem with incomplete information. How did you approach it? And what was the outcome? In my previous job, I was often responsible for providing Office support to users, especially with their Excel files and templates, which were essential to the company. I remember one time the logistics team needed a very specific spreadsheet to compile information from reports generated by the company's internal software. The problem was that initially the software and Excel didn't communicate with each other, and I wasn't clear on what type of information they exactly needed. So, first thing I did was speak directly with the logistic users to fully understand their needs and how they use the internal software. After that, I strengthened my Excel skills and contacted the company's software programmer, who was always helpful when we needed it. Together, we devised a way to create a small database. This database will store the information the logistics staff needed to extract and allow them to generate an Excel workbook that met all their requirements. The result was a tailor-made technological solution, exclusive to the logistics team, that not only met their needs, but also significantly increased their work efficiency. Question number 2. Describe a situation where you received constructive criticism that you initially disagreed with. How did you react? And what did you learn? Regarding this question, I can mention the following situation. When I started as an IT assistant, my main task was providing help desk support to users who called. At first, I felt I handled calls quite well, until one day, a colleague suggested that I should remind users of the importance of creating a ticket or service request before calling, regardless of the type of support they needed. He explained that this was the company's established process. My initial reaction was disbelief, thinking he was just trying to make my job more difficult. However, my perspective changed radically when my boss asked me for a report of the request I had closed that month. To my surprise, I had no record because I hadn't insisted that users create the request. My boss in a much more serious tone, reminded me that requests were essential to the service and that I should always ask for them. From that experience, I learned a valuable lesson: to listen carefully to the advice I receive in the workplace and not to be foolish or stubborn when applying it. Since then, whenever I receive a suggestion, I try to put it into practice as soon as possible. Question number 3. How do you stay updated on industry trends and advancements? And how do you apply new knowledge in your work? As you will know, Mr. Vélez, technology is advancing by leaps and bounds, and therefore it's crucial to stay ahead of the curve. For me, my cell phone is my primary tool in this regard. I rely on it for tools such as social media, websites, personal emails, and educational platforms to stay up to date with trends and advancements in the technology sector, both nationally and globally. Now, when it comes to applying what I learned at work, my favorite technique is through a project that requires the use of the technological tools or resource it studied. This way, I not only consolidate my technical knowledge with practical experience, but I also directly contribute to improvement or efficiency of a specific service or area within the company. Question number 4. Can you walk me through a decision you made that involved weighing different options and their potential consequences? What was your thought process and what was the result? 2 years ago, I immersed myself in a project to create and implement a wired network for a small business. The big challenge was the limited budget, which forced me to adapt the design to what we had. I remember we considered three main options. First, use lower quality materials to offer more functionality. 2. Design a network with great reach, considering future expansion. 3. Set up a fully physical network tailored to the exact size of the site. It was a very pressure-filled moment, as the decision had to be made quickly to get started as soon as possible. Each option had its advantages and limitations. For me, making important decisions always involves listening to diverse perspectives. So, after a very extensive conversation with the client, where I paid close attention to their perspective, we conclude that the best option was a fully physical network tailored to the site's size. In addition to my own opinion and that of the client, I sought advice from several colleagues and conducted some quick online research. I firmly believe in the importance of assertive communication and active listening in these types of situations. The end result was a very satisfied client with his new network, which significantly improved the connection quality of all his devices. He assured me that we would not hesitate to contact me again for future work of this type. Question number 5. Tell me about a time you have to adapt to a significant change at work, whether it was a new process, technology, or team structure. How did you navigate it? I vividly remember the time my team was tasked with installing and configuring biometric device for employee entry and exit control using facial recognition. Interestingly, these were the first device of this type the company had acquired. So for me, it was completely new territory. In situations like this, I believe the most important thing is to thoroughly document the specific operation of the device, not only to understand its performance, but also to anticipate and resolve potential future issues. Once I felt prepared, we proceeded with the installation and configuration. After several attempts, we successfully completed. But for me, a crucial step is always to conduct thorough functionality testing. I consider these tests essential in any job, as they allow us to evaluate the quality of both the device and the entire implementation process. In the end, my team successfully met this requirement. It was a turning point for the company's internal scheduling process. For me, it was a great professional experience that truly tested my ability to adapt and respond in a very specific setting. Question number 6. How do you prioritize your tasks when you have multiple deadlines and competing demands? When I'm assigned or have multiple tasks with different deadlines and demands, my instinct is to start with what I know I'm best at or what will take the least amount of time to complete. I'm one of those people who prefers to focus on the easiest or shortest tasks first. The reason? I know that all that time I save up from can be spent later on the tasks at hand, which are often more complex or require more effort. Question number 7. Describe your ideal work environment and team dynamic. What kind of culture helps you thrive? For me, the most important thing in a good work environment is comfort. And I don't just mean physical comfort, which is crucial, but also mental comfort. I firmly believe that offering employees a truly comfortable place can boost their productivity, making them much more efficient in their daily tasks. Furthermore, when I think about the dynamics and culture of a work team, I feel that it depends greatly on the leaders or managers. If someone is able to lead effectively, it will be much easier for them to bring out the full potential of their staff. Therefore, I believe it is essential to foster a culture of mutual support. Misunderstandings and toxic environments must be avoided at all costs to protect group cohesion. That way, Staff can work efficiently, thriving in the process, which benefits both employees and the company. Question number 8. Share an example of a project where you collaborated with someone whose working style or personality differed significantly from yours. How did you ensure effective teamwork? I remember once when we started a software project with a 6-month deadline. At the time, I was on another team, but there was a personal change, and I was assigned to this new project with a different team and group leader, someone I barely knew. For the first 2 months, I had some issues with the project leader. Mainly, his approach to software development was somewhat antiquated and outdated, and he demanded much more from the team than necessary. The situation exasperated me, and I found it very difficult to adapt to his work ethic. However, given the situation, I had no choice but to adapt to his methods. By the third, by the third month of development, I had to adjust my own work pace. My goal was not only to meet his demands, but also to anticipate what he wanted. Furthermore, for me, establishing and maintaining good communication with team members is crucial. Therefore, although our conversations weren't very long, I always maintained clear and precise communications with the project leader. This way, I avoided future arguments or problems that would have affected not only the project's development but also my own performance. Question number 9. What's a professional failure or setback you've experienced? And what key lessons did you take away from it? A year ago, I was involved in a small scale software development project. For this project, I proposed using a new programming language, which was the perfect excuse to brush up on my skills. Development itself went smoothly, and we delivered the software to the client on time. However, just a week after delivery, the client contacted us about a problem with the software. The problem lay in the database I had programmed. There was an error in the table relationships that caused a loop when querying data, ultimately crashing the program. Once the error was identified, it took me more than 4 weeks to resolve it, but not before facing several hitches. The main reason was that I hadn't properly documented the code I used to create the database. From this experience, I learned several valuable lessons. The main one is that code documentation should always be clear and well organized. It shouldn't just be a beautiful document stored somewhere, but a useful and functional tool in case something goes wrong. I also want to emphasize that this experience taught me the importance of daring to try new things, implementing new programming language, and developing applications with different tools. Only in this way can you feel like you've mastered something new, because mistakes are an essential part of the process and hold many more lessons than any successes. Question number 10. How do you measure your own success in a role beyond just meeting targets? That's a very interesting question. In my opinion, beyond simply meeting objectives, my true success in a job is determined by the professional experience it allows me to have. We all know that work experience is a key factor in landing any position. Therefore, if the job I have allows me to face different professional situations or contexts from which I can learn and actively contribute, I consider that reason enough to feel successful in my career. Question number 11. What do you believe are the biggest challenges facing our industry or company today? And how do you see yourself contributing to addressing them? The biggest challenge I see in this company is keeping its technology constantly up to date. As I mentioned, technology advancement is designed, which is why it's crucial to keep both the hardware and software of most devices up to date. One way I could help solve this problem would be to implement remote monitoring software. This will allow us to have a clear view of all the technological devices in operation, which in turn will help us determine whether it's best to update their hardware, software, or simply replace them with the latest models on the market. As a professional in this field, I can assure you that prevention is much better than cure, especially when it comes to technology. Question number 12. What question do you have for me about this role or the company? First and foremost, I'd like to understand the company's options if I want to continue my studies. I'm interested in knowing if it's possible to adjust my work schedule, if I can work overtime to compensate for the time I spend at university, and if the company has agreements with any institutions that offer professional level studies. I also have questions about the company's organizational chart, and more specifically that of the department it like to join. I want to know if there's a possibility of advancement within this hierarchy, and if so, what I need to achieve a promotion. Finally, I'd like to understand how salary will be handled in the event of a promotion and how the increase will be reflected. That's all.